Welcome to another episode of the No Ceilings Podcast. I'm Tyler Metcalf, joined as always by Tyler Rucker. Rucker, how are we doing?
Fantastic. I'm doing just absolutely sensational, Metcalf. I'm really excited for this one. How are you doing, sir? How are we holding up?
Just living the dream day by day. NBA season's right around the corner. College is, coming soon after that. International play has been just an absolute delight. Just couldn't ask for a better time of the year.
It's beautiful. I mean, I can't believe we got 5 days until NBA opening night. I'm just pumped out of my mind for that. And gosh, it is unbelievable how close college hoops is to being here. I'm having a great time talking about prospects with everyone. And I'm having a very, very good time with the No Ceilings crew, just pumping out content. It's been on fire. So hats off to our team. But I'm pumped for this one, Metcalf. I'm doing good. I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah, and like you said, No Ceilings, ton of content recently. Highly recommend people going and checking out the interview that Maxwell did with Milos Uzan.
Yes.
One of our favorite returners this year. I think a guy who definitely could challenge for being the best point guard in this draft come June. Very exciting, really great interview, really great written piece to accompany that. So check out the pod, check out the written piece on NoCeilingsNBA.com. 100% free. Just go check it out and subscribe while you're there. All right. Well, we're going to have a little fun, plant our flag on some prospects today. One of the, more lighthearted, fun things about the draft community is being able to claim guys as, that's my guy. I was, it's the hipster mindset of, I like that way before it was cool. I like that prospect before you guys like that prospect. Look at me. So we're going to try not to be that pretentious about it, but we're going to kind of run through 5 or so guys in this class that we're really, 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 really excited about to start the season, and that we might have a little higher than some other outlets. And just because we're high on them now does not mean that we will remain high on them throughout the season, or that everyone else won't catch up, because odds are they will. So, Rucker, I'm going to let you start. Who do you want to go with?
I'm going to start with a guy that I keep pumping as just I'm absolutely in love with. It feels wrong if I don't mention Stephon Castle first. I just adore his game. I adore the upside. I adore everything I've heard from those practices to start the year. I adore the fit too, Metcalf. We always talk about the draft as really important with fit when it comes to getting selected to NBA teams. I think the fit as incoming freshmen on certain college teams is just as important when you're talking about reaching that potential or really elevating your game. And I think Castle has all of the pieces around him to really send a statement this year when it comes to his stock at the next level. I think there's some people out there that have talked to me that a little lower on his, ceiling, if you want to put it that way. But I see a tough 6'6" guard with bundles of potential all over the place and skills. And I just really think this is a dangerous player. And I forget who put it out, but someone that I really respect on the line put out that Castle's defense was really standing out at their practices, which is very exciting. I think it might have been John Rothstein, and Maxwell pointed it out to us. So that's another area where if all of a sudden you're hearing that praise when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, I already know what he can do offensively, and I'm very excited about that. So if the defense is taking it up to another level, and I think that's something we have to realize too, is like an incoming freshman coming to that team, he's probably realizing I got to defend my butt off or I'm not going to be on the court. They have plenty of people. So I'm just excited to see what he can do this year. And I think this is a potential top 5 pick. I really do. I think he's got the tools to be an absolute stud in this class.
Yeah, so just running through some of his synergy numbers with Atlanta Express from last summer, going with that instead of the high school stuff, just because sample size is a lot larger.
Right.
So pick and roll ball handler, 84th percentile, transition, 62nd percentile, spot up, 84th percentile, isolation, 70th percentile, all jump shots, 44th percentile, not great, but shooting off the catch, 68th percentile, dribble jumpers, 35th percentile, where he shot just 21.1%.
Right.
Room for improvement. But I think kind of what really stands out in there is the pick and roll efficiency. And at his size, like you mentioned, I think 6'6", correct?
Yes.
Big dude. And he knows how to use his body in the pick and roll where he puts guys in jail. He seals them off. He does an awesome job of snaking through traffic, staying really composed. Just one of these rare freshmen who just tends to play at his own speed. And in that pick and roll with Donovan Clingan, get healthy soon, Donovan. That just two-man game has the potential to be extraordinarily fun. But then you throw in the off-ball shooters of Tristan Newton and Alex Caravan and Cam Spencer, and it's like, oh my God, this dude could average damn near 10 assists a game.
I mean, I think that's what I'm trying to get at with him is when I'm evaluating high school prospects or incoming freshmen, the first thing I'm trying to do is say, like, well, where do you hang your hat? What do you do good? What is your potential NBA skill? And for a 6'6" guard to be such a potential dangerous playmaker out of the pick and roll, that efficiency. And like I've seen that in his high school film, even I love how you go off of the other stuff because there is more of a sample size, but he's leaning on that, which, like you said, like, okay, he's going to be running a pick and roll with Donovan Clingan. If you clash down on Clingan, now all of a sudden he has the potential to throw it out to Caravan or Spencer for wide open threes. He's got weapons all over the place. UConn's going to be a really tough team to deal with this year. It's just going to be a really fun year. And I think Castle's going to be a fantastic prospect that I would not get too caught up on the numbers with him. I would get caught up on the tape because I think there's so many mouths to feed with that team. Someone's going to be putting up numbers each night. And it might not be him every single game, but you know, if he's showing that pick and roll ability, if he shows that the isolation abilities take another step up, if he's showing the ability to score, we got a really dangerous player at 6'6" that has a high feel for the game. So I'm just a big fan.
Okay. So do you think he legitimately can challenge for the number one spot or kind of more that top 5 range? And then I know you hate doing this. Give me a pro comp.
I don't like a pro comp. I feel like,
guess what? I don't care.
No, I mean, I think actually it would not shock me if he's challenged for one. A lot of things will have to go right out of the gate.
Like what?
I think the defense would have to be possessed, which we got a little teaser of that. But if the defense is legit and he's just a 6'6" combo guard playing high level defense that is also a fantastic playmaker and the shots trending in the right direction, you're checking a lot of boxes very quickly. There's some Joe Johnson with his game. Shout out Nathaniel. He's messaged me about like talking about some prospects this year. I love the work he does. And he was like, hey, little Joe Johnson. I was like, yeah. And someone's brought up Joe Johnson to me before, but I was like, I think we might be talking Joe Johnson with ball handling, playmaking ability as like a guard, a floor general. And Joe Johnson, I love Joe Johnson, like just the way you could be smothering him and he could still give you buckets. I don't like throwing Cade Cunningham around because it's the number 1 pick. It's one of the top prospect consensus. But I'm just saying that type of style where it's like plus size ball handler with a little bit of wiggle. Castle's just been one of those guys I feel so good going into this year of being like, I'll put the chips at the center of the table for Stephon Castle. And if I'm wrong, then hey, it's preseason. Like we're doing a My Guys episode in the preseason. A lot of stuff's going to change, but I just have loved what I've seen.
We have to be correct.
That's okay.
There's no room for error here.
I feel great about him. Compared to a lot of these guys, I feel great about Castle. And maybe we're looking down the road and he goes 7th. I'll still feel pretty good about that.
For sure. Okay.
Hit me with yours. Let's go. Enough me rambling. That's your number 1 guy.
He's someone that I've talked about a ton. I've written about him already this year. Jacoby Walter.
Yes.
Guard from Baylor. I just head over heels for him. I just think he's the most well-rounded guard in this class right now. I have him 2 on my board. It wouldn't shock me if he went top 3 come draft time. There are obviously plenty of roads where that doesn't happen, but I think the way that he defends, the way that he plays on and off ball, the playmaking, the scoring, the spot up shooting, the off ball movement, the running in transition, all of it is exactly what you want. And it wouldn't shock me if we see a Keontae George-esque leap in his playmaking this year at Baylor, because they demand a lot from their guards. And if you can't dribble, pass, and shoot and defend on that Baylor backcourt, a very crowded Baylor backcourt this year, you're not going to play. And I think he can do all of those things at a really high level. And I think he's going to be the best guard at that school.
Okay, so hit me with, because I'm drunk in love on Jacoby Walter too, and your piece was fantastic about him. But I want you to, for everyone that's starting to get really excited about prospects, because it's funny now, being on Twitter, talking to people, texting around, you can tell everyone's now like, okay, it's time to go. Let's start watching. Let's start talking about some players. But months ago, me and you were talking about him, and we were intrigued with this high school stuff.
Yeah.
And then you told me you need to go watch this EYBL stuff. So everyone who hasn't done that, tell me why. Because when I went back and watched, I said, this is a completely different monster. Like, tell everyone why that player is all of a sudden now you're like, hey, this could be a top 3 guy. Because we've said this before. KOC was the first one to put a big board out there that was like Jacoby was very high. And we were like, whoa. And then you told me, hey, I went and watched his EYBL stuff. He is a bad man on the court. So like, just tell everyone why. And if they don't have that access to that, well, what's such a different player that we might not, because he was Sunrise Christian.
Link. He was Link Academy with Cameron Carr and Elliot Cadeau.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So at Link, he was really just kind of like a 3-and-D guard. It was a lot of like Contavious Caldwell Pope type play from him, whereas a lot of spotting up and a lot of really high level defense. With Team Trey Young, he was way more on the ball. It was way more Bradley Beal. It was way more Devin Booker. And I know those are really lofty names, but when you talk about a top 3 pick, that's kind of the realm that you're shooting for in terms of a player. So I'm just going to run through just his synergy numbers here in terms of play type. And what is so fascinating about this is that no matter how the volume shifted in these play types between Link and Team Trey Young, the efficiency was almost the exact same, which is really unheard of for most players, especially high school kids. So at Link Academy, he's 28.1% of his possessions were spotting up, and he ranked in the 67th percentile. With Team Trey Young, that dropped to 19.7% of his possessions, and he ranked in the 70th percentile. As a pick and roll ball handler at Link, he only ran at 7.1% of the time, ranked in the 80th percentile. Team Trey Young, he ran at 16.3% of the time, ranked in the 88th percentile. Team Trey Young ran isolation 17.5% of the time, ranked in the 82nd percentile. At Link, ran isolation 6% of the time, ranked in the 61st percentile. Those are all really, really, really good synergy rankings. And the fact that he's just kind of effortlessly shifting between all of these different roles and responsibilities, and seeing almost no drop off in his efficiency and scoring versatility and capabilities is really just a unique attribute for a teenager.
It's very exciting. And I know everyone listening, the biggest thing we've had about Jacoby is like, hey, Baylor's going to have a really talented backcourt. But me and you always have kind of said, well, like the defense might keep him on the court, even if they want to go a little small and play him maybe at the 3 or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But like a lot of people were bad mouthing this class. And we've seen like, it's so early. That's why I'm always like, just pump the brakes, guys. Let's figure this out. Let's wait. Like there's international guys that are starting to come alive right now that we're just so pumped about. We're probably going to talk about one. That's my wild prediction with this class or this episode. There's a lot of talent. And I think there's still a lot of questions with this incoming freshman class, but there's also a lot of ways where it could get swayed to be like, whoa, this got really fun in a hurry. So I think Jacoby's, if we're seeing the EYBL stuff, that's another monster in this class. If we're seeing more towards a little bit of like he's the 3-and-D guy, maybe he's coming down a little bit, but we've seen versions of him in so many ways. So it's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. Who you got next?
Metcalf, I'm going Tyrese Proctor.
Okay.
I'm doing it from Duke. I can't stop fighting it. This is just I'm buying the flashes I saw at the end of last year at freshman when he was just like raw, but starting to come alive. He did some stuff in the tournament play where I was just like, oh man, you're starting to really feel yourself when it comes to being a basketball player, offensively too. Defensive flashes I've loved. And then, yeah, I'm going crazy. I'm watching Duke scrimmages footage, and he just looks like a guy that's ready mentally to be like, this is the time. Challenges for Tyrese, though. Unbelievable incoming class of guards on that roster with Jared McCain, Caleb Foster. Got a really talented team. Kyle Filipowski, Mark Mitchell. They have a lot of mouths to feed. But I just really am buying that Tyrese Proctor is going to be one of the top guards in this class. I think he's going to be a pit bull defensively. I think he's going to show a lot of improved confidence and having the potential to be a floor general this year. So just another guy where I'm like, I'm going to bet on Tyrese Proctor. He might not put up 20 a game, but I think he's going to be someone that evaluators like us, NBA scouts, NBA organizations are going to be very intrigued with his skill set.
Yeah, and he came on so strong down the stretch of last season where when he ended up pulling out of the draft, it kind of surprised me because I think he would have gone in first round. I had a first round grade on him at that point. But, you know, we saw guys like Benedict Mathurin and Jaden Ivey kind of do a similar thing, and they ended up going top 10. It wouldn't be shocking if we see Tyrese Proctor do that same thing. I'm not saying he's the same type of player as those guys, just examples of returners who then blow up as sophomores. I have him 6 right now. I think he's just going to force Shire to play him as the main guy running that offense the vast majority of the time. What I think is really kind of fun with him, though, is that he has proven that he can play on or off ball. And being historically just a ball dominant point guard and then ranking in the 53rd percentile in spot up scoring as a freshman in the ACC, that's pretty impressive. So now sophomore year, you're incorporating that with guys like Jared McCain and Caleb Foster as well. That's where it's like, okay, I think we're going to see a lot of versatility from him, but his comfort level and overall effectiveness running the point and running the show, I think is going to be really impressive. And I think something that doesn't get talked about enough with him is how solid his defense was last year and how good he was away from the ball, where once his guy gave it up, I thought he had some of the best ball denial and screen navigation in the country, especially among freshmen. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that carries over into a sophomore year.
Yeah, I mean, like freshman year, he's, correct me if I'm wrong, reclassified to join.
I believe
early?
so.
I believe
that
so.
That sounds right.
But originally from Australia, 6'5". Freshman year, you look at his numbers, you're like, he's like 9-3-3 on 38, 32, 87. So you're like, okay. But then just finishing in the year strong, like he had 10, almost 10, 3 and 5 with 1.2 steals in his last 5 games on 43, 42, 100. And like had some impressive games before that. If you stretch it out even more, he was 11 points per game in his last 9 with around 5 assists. So like, I'm just believing. I'm a big believer of watching kind of the second half, almost like seeing how they were their first half of their freshman season, seeing what they did their second half. If you see improvements, that confidence is carrying into a full off season. If they're working their butt off, there's no reason why they shouldn't explode. We saw Jaden Ivey do it for Purdue. I love when returners come back because you get to see quickly like who's been putting in the work. And I think Proctor is going to be a guy like you just said. They're going to have him on the court. I know they have so much talent on that team. And me and you have joked in previous episodes. I hope they somehow play a lineup with all 3 freshman guards. I mean, 2 freshman guards and Proctor, the sophomore. I think they can. I think they should.
At very least, try it, especially early in the year with Filipowski and Mitchell. Why not? Why not?
Give me McCain, Proctor, Foster, Mark Mitchell, and Filipowski, and let's go to war. I'm sorry for all the upperclassmen, but let's just go to war.
I need it so bad. Sorry if you said it and I missed it. Where do you have Proctor?
I did not say it. Right now, I have him at 7.
No. I have him at 6. So
yeah,
you kind of hate Tyrese Proctor. Also, stop copying my board.
God, hit me with your next. Let's go.
Again, another guy I've talked about a ton. Garwey Dual. Can't quit him. Won't quit him. I refuse to. He just plays at a different speed than everyone else, and that composure, that ability to never be flustered or rushed, um, is really special. And then he just lulls defenders to sleep and then seemingly like teleports with his crossovers and spin moves and just explosive dribble moves and gets to a spot in the blink of an eye where it's shocking. Um, I, I desperately need him to show any sort of scoring instincts because I think the shot looks solid. Um, I think the mid range pull up looks really comfortable. The touch around the rim, I think, is solid, but he just never looks for his own shot because he's such a good playmaker and good defender. I love his game. I just need him to be a little more assertive when it comes to scoring.
It's funny. You said this before we recorded, and you're spot on. Like I could have predicted your whole team probably of your guys, but it's funny because I have to keep the streak going. I saw a video of, I think it was either Swish Cultures, League Him. I love those guys. So shout out to those guys, whoever posted it, but it was about Garwey literally in Portland drink. And, I remember the game. It was against the Generals or whatever, when they had that scrimmage in the Trailblazers gym. And it was just showing Garwey highlights. And I was just like, oh man, I forgot just how dominant he was on that court that day. And it was all defensive, throwing passes, just attacking. There's a world in which he becomes a nightmare, and we're all ready for it. But there's also a world in which he's a very fun nightmare this year, and then next year is the offensive breakout. I still think he's going to be such a damn good just player that scouts might be more pumped out of the mind about just his ability to impact winning plays and make those plays to be such an important piece that they might be like, we don't need him to average 20, we don't need him to be averaging 15 a game. He's going to have games with 3 or 4 steals. He's going to have games with 5 or 6 assists. He's just going to probably do a little bit of everything. And I'm really pumped to watch him throughout the year. It's going to be one of those, like, I feel like with Garwey, I'm going to watch the film and not get too obsessed with the box score.
He's going to be one of those guys where you kind of have to ignore the numbers. Just because he's going to average 5 to 7 points a game would be my guess. I would be shocked if he's in double digits scoring, just because that would be pretty uncharacteristic. I don't think he's incapable of it. I just don't think it's something he looks for. But I would imagine the assists are up around 5 a game. I would imagine the steals are between 2 and 3 a game. Wouldn't surprise me if he's over a block a game too, just because of how long he is and how good his hands are. I was so bummed when we were in Portland and like he just didn't even play in like the actual game after dominating in practice and scrimmages all week. That sucked. But oh well. I've thrown out. I'm not brave enough to say it on the pod yet, but I threw out a comp for him that was rather aggressive to you.
I have one that might you might get mad at, but I'm talking about like the point of his impact. Rondo.
That's not bad.
I'm talking about just like I'm not saying like, oh, he's gonna be Rondo or he can't shoot ever. I'm saying just like Rondo. People forget what a problem Rondo was with the Celtics. Like he was putting up box scores numbers where you're like, this is a video game box score when you're playing 2K on rookie. And I'm just saying with Garwey, it could be like he makes that energy steal, dive, and gets an assist that just swings the momentum of a game. He's a good playmaker. He does stuff on film sometimes you watch where you just like, what the heck was that? Like, how did he do that? It's just the creativity, the upside, it's just a really fun player to watch. And I know the name that you're thinking of, so we'll keep that in the back burner. But
I'm not ready to get torched for that.
No. But he's a really fun talent. It could be like a Tyrese Proctor. I did the
write-up. I did the write-up for him for our preseason guide, and like a couple of the comps that I put down were like Shake Milton. I think kind of that role is like a little more realistic outcome than the name I'm thinking of, that if things start going well, I might get bold enough to throw out there. But
his defense, I think, is going to make him insane. Even a high, and this isn't a slander to Shake Milton. I'm just saying that his defense is going to make you get in places where you're like, this could be a lottery pick. I don't know if it's there this year. That's why I'm so excited to watch their first couple of games, because I'm just going to be like, let's see where you're at. Even with some of those games where it's like, the early exhibitions and stuff, I just want to see how comfortable he looks. And what I was trying to say earlier about like comparing him to Tyrese Proctor is like, maybe it's a Proctor thing where like he could be a first rounder this year, or he could return and potentially be a top 10 pick. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Who's your next one?
I'm going to go with screw it. I guess I'm a Duke fan today. I'm going Jared McCain. I love Jared McCain. Absolutely.
Love it.
Just a guy that I'm buying as much. Seeing him in person, I was just like, this guy knows how to play basketball, and he's going to be a damn good player for years and years to come. And I think he's just smart, intelligent. It's not the way that they are as prospects, but it's the feel, and like watching him gives me Asar Thompson vibes of like, you would love to play basketball with these guys, because if you're open, they're going to find you. If you're running the court, the ball is going to be heading your direction the moment they get the rebound. Like, they're just going to be a joy to play with. And I think McCain's going to be one of those guys too. Like, don't get caught up in the numbers, but front offices and NBA scouts might drool over just like, okay, he's a hockey assist guy. He's making the extra pass. He's, unselfish with the ball in his hands. He's just a damn good player. And I think the shot, I'm buying it. I think it's just a tough SOB that's going to play good basketball this year. And I'm just buying it.
Yeah. He was, again, one of the standouts in Portland. Incredibly charismatic, which shouldn't be shocking given his social media presence. But what constantly stood out was how good of a passer he was, and just how effectively and easy he ran a pick and roll and then found those weak side corner shooters over and over and over again. That's why I desperately want Duke to play this 3-guard lineup where you have either Proctor or Foster or McCain kicking out to each other, because I think all of them are going to shoot it. I know McCain's raw shooting numbers weren't the most extraordinary thing in the world, but I think his form looks good. I think he has good touch. I buy him as a shooter long-term. And then he's just a really solid defender too. But every time I watched him, I just kept coming away with, holy crap, this dude is such a good passer. And through high school, he played mostly combo guard, shooting guard type of roles. But at his size, and he's not the biggest guy on the court. I think he's listed at 6'3". He's not playing shooting guard in the NBA at 6'3", but the fact that he's already showing these point guard skills and these playmaking skills and this ability to run the pick and roll outside of just that immediate two-man game and find those off-ball shooters really consistently is really promising for how he can grow and shift his game from being that shooting guard in high school to eventually taking more of that on-ball role and being more of that primary ball handler in the NBA, similar thing like we saw from Jamal Murray. Again, not saying he's going to be Jamal Murray, but when you're looking at Jared McCain, that's kind of the hope that you get for his trajectory and his development path. And I think we're kind of seeing a lot of signs of that.
You know what he gives me Metcalf vibes of is Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to be like, well, you wouldn't go draft Malcolm Brogdon in the top 10, but every single team would be like, man, I'd love to have Malcolm Brogdon. Just a smart player that's like really knows how to play the game. And I think when I watch Jared McCain, I have a weakness for the guys that the floor is higher than maybe the ceiling is suggesting. Like, I think that a lot of times in the draft, teams want to chase the guys that are like, man, they have a really high ceiling. But sometimes those teams that are really smart would be like, where's the high floor guys? Let's get those. Those guys are going to help us play a long time.
I think we're seeing more of a shift in that kind of mindset in recent years too, where it's like, top 10, I'm willing to take a bigger swing on it because that's where our team is now. But once you kind of get out of there, it's like, who's going to help us win? Who's going to help us take that next step forward? Jared McCain is probably one of those guys.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Hit me with it. Who's third for you?
Me and this guy have had a rocky relationship over the last 8 months. Zaccharie Risacher, I'm all the way back in.
I mean, you said it before we recorded, and I was like, I haven't seen that look in your eye in a while. So, for everyone, just you've been possessed. It's been fun. You've been possessed with watching these international guys now, and I love that out of you because I can tell when you get like something that's like it's a thorn in your side, you're like, I got to figure this out now. And I feel like Zachary's been the one right now where you've just been texting me like seeing some stuff, and I was like, Metcalf's hooked. And then I asked you before, I was like, by the way, before we record, what's up with Zaccharie? And you're just like, I'm back. You're like, I'm back. And I looked at his box scores because I've been traveling and I didn't see the last couple stuff. I got to watch in the night. And I was like, well, he didn't blow up. So what did you see in the games? And you're just like, I'm back. I'm all in. I was like, okay. So what has changed for you? Because the limited stuff, previous episode for those that didn't listen, like the limited stuff, I've asked a couple people around the league and they've also shifted their minds too of being like, oh no, he's looked great lately. And I'm like, we got a very fun development if Zacharie's back. So what's shifted for you? Tell everyone.
He's stopped playing like a coward, first and foremost.
To be polite. He's just not timid now.
Yeah, he's showing confidence
wanted.
and decisiveness. So going back to last summer when this could be a roller coaster for fans listening. So FIBA U17 woke up when we did the recap of that. He was one of the standouts and one of these guys where it's like, God, he's got really good size, really good defense, potential offensive versatility. Like, God, could this be like a Jason Tatum, Paul George type wing in the 2024 draft? And then, we saw him in Portland and he was kind of timid and shy, but it's like, okay, kind of fish out of water, language barrier, only guy, he didn't grow up with everyone else there. I can kind of get that. They roll the ball out in the games, switch flips, and he's, into it. It's like, okay, cool. Still wasn't good. Then we have FIBA this summer, and he's in the championship game scoring 0 points and taking one shot. He was awful that tournament. He was passive. He was indecisive. It was rough. All of that is flipped in this season with JL Borg. And take the primary wing creator notion and just throw it out the window. It's not who he is. And if you keep trying to think of him like that, you're going to hate him because the on-ball creation stuff, it isn't there. There are some nice passing flashes and whatnot, but that's not who he is. I would be shocked if that's who he grows into. If you instead think about him as a Jaden McDaniels, Mikal Bridges type, you're going to fall in love because this dude is doing all of the connective stuff. He's being way more decisive in his off-ball attacks. The shot off the catch looks insanely quicker than it did 4 months ago. He's not afraid of contact attacking the rim. He's kind of combining dribble moves and attacking closeouts. He's being connective with his passing and decisive, running out in transition. And then the defense is damn near elite on a nightly basis. His off-ball stuff is really on point with his timing and rotations. The on-ball, he does get blown past pretty regularly, but they're also throwing him on opposing point guards. So there is that quickness barrier where he's just naturally going to be slower, but he never quits on the play, and his length constantly allows him to get back into it. So when you think of him as a 3-and-D type guy, a guy who could, potentially grow into that second side creator, that tertiary creator, that's where it's like, oh, there's a lot of fun stuff here. And then the defense is incredibly good every single night.
Okay. Zach wants to know. We got some fans making a lot of comments. Thank you for everyone, by the way. We're still getting used to doing all the live stuff, but there's a lot of comments that I was just trying to read through. So Zach wants to know. I need to know where Metcalf's got him on his board.
He's up to 10 for me right now. So
Ooh. All right. I felt aggressive moving him up from 28 to 24.
and 2 months ago I had him at like 34. Because his FIBA stuff this summer was that bad, where he was fouling a lot. There's nothing on offense. It's like, oh my God, is this dude soft? Is he undisciplined? Does he have zero confidence? And all of that has shifted. So I have him at 10. Could drop, things can always change. A lot of basketball left to be played. wouldn't shock me if he kind of goes up, and some of the guys that I, am taking an optimistic view on, that I have above him right now fall off. It wouldn't be surprising if he ended up a couple spots higher.
Well, I mean, you're not crazy. And this is why we're always saying pump the brakes on overreaction. And this is also why we're saying like pump the brakes on not getting too caught up on, 4 months ago. And it's funny because you go back and someone that I talk to all the time had like a post previously talking about like, man, this is crazy. Look at this preseason mock draft from 5 years ago. And there's like 4 names that are in the top, or there's like 6 names in the top 10 that didn't even go anywhere around there. And it's like, yeah, we're trying to project something without a full season of basketball and development and seeing what can happen, go on. There's so much movement every year. I mean, the year Keegan Murray gets drafted 4th, he wasn't even on most first round. Sometimes he was projected like 24th or stuff. I looked at no ceiling stuff. It was hilarious to look at some of the names that we had projected early. And I was also proud of some of the names we had because I was like, man, the top 10 looked a lot better than I thought. But it's just, there's so much stuff that has to happen. And Zaccharie all of a sudden looks like the switch is flipped. So it would not shock me if he starts to climb a ton. And someone even asked me, like, what's the name this year that no one's projecting right now that could be up in the top 10? I was like, there's a ton of them. That's why we love doing this, because there's going to be 4 guys that shock us and just go up there. And Zaccharie could be a kind of an asterisk because he was projected 5 months ago to be a top 10 guy.
He had to climb and then just fell off and on his way back up.
But we don't know. This is going to happen with a lot of guys. Melvin and Jink is another guy overseas, impressing. There's a lot. Nikola Topic, like a lot of guys.
Article coming
out tomorrow. I'm very excited about that. There's a lot of guys that are depressed. And I think Zachary's just like, Metcalf's not the only one. I've asked around. Everyone's feeling the same way. They're like, no, some switched. Like, this is what we wanted to see. And that's what we love doing this. That's why we do this every year, because it's so cool to see a prospect all of a sudden live up to what they were supposed to potentially be. And, big size wing with really good defensive chops. And now all of a sudden he's playing aggressive. That checks a lot of boxes in NBA scouts' hearts. Like, that gets a lot of people excited. Yeah. So I think you're onto something for sure. Would not be surprising to me if he starts climbing again.
Okay. Who you got?
Oh, man. I'm going to go, Metcalf, I talked about it earlier, and I can't. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go Elliot Cadeau. I'm doubling down on the little guy. I'm still hurting from the Kennedy Chandler experience, but I think this is the year Elliot Cadeau brings us back to the little guys. I know every doubt everyone's ever going to have about Cadeau. He's small. He's listed at 6 foot, 6'1", which I think is very favorable, and someone got a little bit of a tip. Hoping he's actually 6'1". I know he's measured at some other places 6'1", but I think the dude plays with the heart of a lion. I think he's going to potentially be the best playmaking guard in this class. I think he's got great feel. I think he's got great burst. I think he's fearless. I think the shot's going to come around. It's just one of those things. I'm going to bet on him. And the funniest thing is, me and you talked about this before, because I was just like, I'm in. I just don't know who's going to be in. Like, what's the team that's going to look at him and say, we don't give a crap because he can play. He flat out can play. We don't care that the NBA's giving all these 6'4" plus floor generals that run the offense. Who's going to say we don't care because Elliot Cadeau can play basketball and make our team better? And I just think that's going to be a really fun case study this year when it comes to the NBA. Like, is this the year Elliot Cadeau just gives the middle finger to draft history recently and says, I don't care if, we have the Cade Cunninghams out there, little guys get it done too.
I like Cadeau. I think he's a really fun player. I think his playmaking is, like you said, some of the most fun stuff in this class. That dude loves to throw a lob. He is addicted to it. It's just constant, especially in the is either the high school or EYBL stuff, but he was just spamming the lob button. But I think his playmaking, like out of the pick and roll and isolation, because he's super quick, really easy for him to get that leverage off that first step. He's just tiny, man. He's so small. He's so small. I want him to be good. I really want him to be good. But it wouldn't shock me if he just ends up being a stud college point guard. And that there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But the shot has to get better. The floater has to get better. The at-rim scoring instincts have to get better, because you can tell he knows how small he is. And he gets timid about scoring around the rim and kind of resorts to throwing tough lobs or tough kickout passes when there's a floater to be had. And I think he kind of got in his own head at times about it. He's going to a hell of a system to play in, though, for point guards at UNC. I think he could be a lot of fun. I just have a lot of questions. I still have him in the first round, but just the more I think about it, the more I get concerned.
I get it. I completely get it. I've seen him struggle around the rim. I've also seen him put guys on the block and go to work and finish around the basket. So he's going to need, he's going to know what people are worried about. He's going to have to show that he can finish around the basket. He's going to have to show that he can finish with some floater. When you're that small, and I know I hate talking about this, but this is just the reality. This is what everyone's going to say. Like, okay, he's a small point guard. Everyone's going to do it. When you're that small, you have to be excellent in multiple areas. There's
zero room for error.
There's zero room for error. So he's either got to be an unreal playmaker, which I think he will be this year, and he's got to shoot the crap out of it to start, to get the ball rolling on hey, this is a top 20 guy. And I think he's a lottery guy right now. I have him 12. I know people would be like, well, that's great. I'm buying it. I think he's going to rewrite history, and I love it. I'm doubling down on it. But to be serious, I think he's going to be able to shoot it. I think he's going to be unreal playmaker and have fantastic feel, and he's going to be such an impact on that court. But then we're going to start really picking his game apart, because although he might have those two abilities, what other area can we kind of bring out to be okay, he can be impactful here, whether it's, off-ball stuff or the floater or maybe some defensive stuff. He's making good impact as a team defender instead of just, isolation stuff. It's going to be a lot of stuff we're going to have to pick his game apart. But I think just a really fun case study that I'm excited to watch Elliot Cadeau, and felt weird if I passed him up. I got to give him some spotlight. So that's
and this is the perfect episode to do that, because that's the whole point of it. We're talking about guys that we love right now, and I adore his playmaking, and I really want him to be outstanding. But didn't we just kind of see this recently with Sharife Cooper?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of it. We've seen a lot of it. But when I watch Cadeau, the shot, some of the creation stuff just pops to me more naturally than where I was with Kennedy Chandler, who I loved. And I was just screw it. If I'm wrong, Kennedy Chandler, I'm wrong. That was a guy. And then Sharife, I know there's a lot of diehards out there about Sharife. Mm-hmm. I was never really there, but I just watched Cadeau, and he looks like a natural floor general that all of a sudden I'm buying is going to be able to shoot. I watch him and I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I'm like, I don't care. Just throw it away. Unless he's 5'5", then I'd be like, okay. But I just am buying it. So we'll see what happens. But okay. You're up next.
Okay. Someone I've talked about a ton last couple of years, going on year 3 of trying to get this dude drafted in the first round. Trey Alexander. It's his show at Creighton this year. Trey, please go pro.
What does he need to do?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm
going to keep asking NBA guys. I'm going to start asking that. Be like, nice. Hey, I got a question for you. What the hell does Trey Alexander need to do?
Okay, so I know the argument is going to be, oh, well, we need to see more on-ball creation from him. It's like, okay, well, last year his most frequent play type was the pick and roll ball handler, and he ranked in the 83rd percentile in it. And he ranked in the 74th percentile shooting off the dribble. Those seem like pretty good numbers. Not great as an isolation creator, but still 53rd percentile. Not a whole lot of sample size with that because Creighton doesn't do that ever. Pick and roll ball handler, including passes, 80th percentile. Those seem like really good on-ball numbers. Okay, well, it's like, well, he needs to be more consistent as an off-ball shooter. Okay, well, he ranked in the 92nd percentile in spot-up scoring and ranked in the 90th percentile shooting off the catch. Those also seem like very good numbers. There's nothing that you can say about his defense because that dude is a menace on defense with his screen navigation, his versatility in the backcourt. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm assuming it's questions about the system, questions about what position is he actually? Is he a point guard? Is he a shooting guard? Is he neither? Is he a little bit of both, but not all of one thing? I don't know. And then I also get scared because this is the exact type of player that just burns me year over year over year because I love some versatile combo guards. But I don't know. He has had an extraordinary season last year, and he had a really good freshman year, especially after Ryan Nembhard got hurt, and he took on the bulk of the playmaking and point guard responsibilities as a freshman when he kind of broke into the starting lineup when he wasn't expected to. All the kid does is play. He's really good. He produces constantly. I'm excited to see what it looks like with him running the show. I'm assuming him and Kalkbrenner will have a really solid two-man game going. I'm excited for him. I love his game. He's, I think, in my lottery, maybe just outside. Yeah, right at the end of the lottery for me right now.
Well, Fantasy Noob, shout out, earlier had a question about point of attack defenders in this class besides Risacher and Dual. Do we think Trey's in that conversation, or do we just think he's just a damn good defender? I absolutely love him. I don't get it. I watched him like a hawk during the NCAA tournament because I was like, what is the lack of buzz? What is going on? Is this an intel thing? Where is it? And I was watching him in that tournament, and he stood out to me numerous games as the best guy on the court. Like he just got to his places. He worked. He was patient, and he was impactful all over the place. And his numbers backed it up. I mean, me and you last year talked about how much we loved Kobe Buffkin. You were the first on that train. You got me on it, and I was like, I'm all aboard. I'm never getting off this train. And then you compare the numbers with those guys, and Trey's right there. And he's got size. He plays tough. He's got wiggle. He's can shoot it. Like, I don't know. So, I mean, do you think that highly of his defensive ability, Metcalf?
I'm not sure I'd quite put him in that class, but like if those guys were like tier A, I think he would be in like tier B.
Okay. That's a good one.
Just because I'm not quite, I don't remember what the wingspan is. I don't remember what the length is. He's not a super explosive athlete.
I think it's great wingspan. I'm gonna find it. I think he measured, and I was like, whoa.
That sounds familiar. But like just his screen navigation, his footwork, his strength, his balance, it's all really, really good. He's just not an uber explosive athlete. So I don't know if people are overthinking that aspect of it. I don't know if they're overthinking kind of what I was talking about with Jared McCain, where I think he measured 6'4",
6'4" and a quarter, and according to Tankathon, because it just popped up right away, 6'10" wingspan.
I like that a lot.
It was just another thing where I was like, what is going? What is it? I don't know. What is it?
I don't know.
Did he come out and say that The Notebook is a terrible movie? Like, what is it? Who did he offend? Another pod.
I don't know. I think he's a lottery guy. I don't know what else. 14.
I have him at 16. Okay, moving on.
So you hate Trey Alexander? It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's the rules.
Yep. Who you got?
So we're doing 5, and this is my 5th.
Yeah, why not?
I'm gonna go. I was going to do one guy to give him some spotlight because I haven't really given him some spotlight. I'm going to just say Dylan Jones to shout out. Like everyone needs to get ready for the Dylan Jones experiences here, but I'm going to pick another one. But I think Dylan's going to have a fantastic year. Love his tape. And last year doing the film sesh with Corey, and Dylan Jones was one of my favorite things I've ever done for No Ceiling. So Miles Kelly is fifth, my guy. I'm in. I'm buying it. I think I told Metcalf before we record, I feel like this is going to be, who was the other name I used? I said, like, this is the Ben Shepherd. This is I blanked. I told you another name. Oh, like maybe the Julian Strother, like the movement shooter wing that sneaks up in the draft class that people start to get excited about. And I said, he's either going to be an early second round target that someone's wanting to add a shooter, or he's going to sneak up into the end of the first round. And junior, Georgia Tech, good percentiles when you look at synergy on offense. He's 87th percentile on catch and shoot. He has an effective field goal percentage of 61.5. And then you look at the defense, which is, me and Metcalf are sort of similar with the synergy defense, where we're like, that's a very fun number. Now let's go see if it actually matches the tape. But he was 92nd percentile in half-court defense. He's around 6'6". I think he's like 185. Looks bigger. His body looks bigger than the weight. And I just think this is an upperclassman that he ended the year on a tear.
Yeah.
It's like 20 a game with almost like high 40, 90 or something in his last 7 games. I'm a big believer of, if you close the year and you're just kicking ass, you have all of that confidence going into an off season of being like, this is my year to really send a statement and make some noise. So I think that's a little bit of a wild card to keep an eye on.
So I just want to dive a little deeper into what type of off-ball shooter he is, because with a lot, again, I'm way behind on Kelly, so none of this is directed to lead you in a certain direction or anything, or an indictment on him by any means. But a lot of the times with, guys can really inflate their shooting numbers by just standing in the corner, or, it's a lot of standstill stuff where it's very, very basic stuff. Kelly ranked in the 96th percentile running off screens, but he only had 28 possessions of it last season, so really low sample size. The on-ball stuff, 27th percentile pick and roll ball handler, 15th percentile isolation. Is that more play style, or was there a lot of really difficult shots that he was taking?
Probably a little bit of mix of both. It's someone that I'm watching closely now because I'm thinking about writing about him, but I want to make sure no one else was going to cover him. But like watching him, it's like the off-ball stuff where he's constantly moving to get the better passing angle. He's not just standing still, like hands up, like hit me. It's like, no, let me adjust, let me slide. It is coming around screens. It is movement. It might not be Julian Strother last year. It might be Julian Strother the year before he had that leap, where we're like, okay, He can shoot it. He looks fun. But then Strother came last year and was pulling up from 5 feet beyond the arc. And we're like, oh gosh, this is a bad man now. I just think Miles he looked like a guy that started to be like, it's a quick shot. It's catch and shoot, lightning quick up. It's compact. I feel great about the form. He just looks like a guy now that's like, all right, I'm going to be extending it a little bit more. I'm going to be shooting off of every movement possible this year coming up. But, we'll see. Is that just going to be, is he going to be a 3-and-D guy, or are we potentially going to get a little bit of like off the dribble creation this year, where it's like, this is a more complete player, right? To which everyone's praising Julian Strother in preseason, and me and Metcalf talked about how much we loved him last year. So it's really weird, but
see that
Strother's doing it in preseason with his 3-point shot, but he's also throwing the floater up that we all loved as a prospect. So you can shoot the crap out of it, but you need to also have one more thing. Or if they're running you off the line, what else are you doing? I think that's where Miles Kelly might be a sleeper for some folks, but I'm excited to see the rest of his game kind of develop.
Where do you have him?
I'll tell you right now, I've got him not high enough. I need to update that part. 87. But I've got him at 38.
Oh, okay.
Couple names I wanted to bring up on this one, but that I have ahead of him, but I figured I'd get a little bit of a sleeper. So
love it.
This is my favorite thing because I always have to push you to go watch them. So like I always for everyone listening, I will literally hammer Metcalf if he won't watch my guy. I'll just be like, have you watched him yet? I'll text you, be like, would you please go watch him? I want to know if I'm crazy. Okay, so you have got one more, sir. The floor is yours.
I do. This one also shouldn't surprise you at all, and I'm going deep cut. KJ Adams.
Wow, you really did go deep cut.
I love this dude. I don't know what he is in the NBA. I don't know if he's an NBA guy because he's like a 6'8" center. He might not even be that. He might be like 6'7", which not ideal. But you want to talk about winning basketball and doing the dirty shit that no one else wants to do? KJ Adams all day. He's a really good passer, awesome screener, good finisher on the roll and transition. I would probably put him in that A tier of defenders. Just anything you need to be done, he's going to go out there and do it. I absolutely love how this kid plays.
What does he need this year?
A jumper.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be like splashing threes or anything like that, but he experimented with a little mid-range stuff a bit last year. But a lot of his kind of mid-post elbow play last year was facilitating and finding Grady Dick on back cuts and handoffs with Dwan Harris and, all that kind of stuff, which he was absolutely elite at. And then, that also sprung open DHO keeper opportunities, and he's skilled enough where he can attack on straight line drives, and then strong and explosive enough where he can finish through contact at the rim. It's just the shot. I mean, he took 17 jumpers last season. If you're going to be that height, you got to be at least be able to make like an elbow jumper. Otherwise, you become incredibly easy to defend. So I would love to see him, if he came out and started splashing threes, that would be incredible. But I don't anticipate that. And it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't go drafted again. But I love how he plays.
It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't go drafted. He's a two-way guy that gets picked up during summer league, and then he gets on an actual roster.
Junior too, right?
I'm telling you, this is a guy that ends up on a playoff team, and he's the 9th guy in a rotation, and somehow sticks on the team for 5 years, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, KJ Adams really took another leap, and then he's just a thorn in every opposing fan base's side in a playoff series. He just plays the game the right way. Some team's going to be like, oh, he can play. But with KJ, he has to be, if you don't have an offensive game, in which he's almost like your big man that's the size of a small forward. Like
he's listed at 6'7".
Yeah.
But he shot 63% from 2 last year. And all of that is at the rim.
If he could be just this lockdown defender and a smart player, you never know. You really never know, because some team will be like, hey, it could work here, but he's got to be that good defensively. He's got to have other areas of his game. So like, I get you. I've always loved KJ, but I've always been like, he just needs something offensively.
He does. And he's just going into his junior year. So if I had to put money on it, I would guess that he would be back for his senior year. But if you think I'm going to drop him out of my rankings until he drops out of the draft, you are dead wrong.
Give me a couple other names you didn't name, but you loved it. We can say like 2 guys.
Milos Uzan.
Milos, I love Milos.
Have him at 16. Adembona, I talked about him a ton.
Ryan Dunn for me.
Very excited about him.
Do
we think he's going to shoot it this year?
Yeah, I do.
His defense was nasty last year.
I
have him in my top 60.
I absolutely love him. I have him at 36.
Ooh,
that's how much I believe in the shot.
I have him at 52.
I think he's going to be really, really good.
I like it. Yeah. Deep cut. Best name in the country. Gibson Jimerson.
That is the best name in the country. That's pretty
From
damn
St.
good.
Louis. A lot of Max Strus vibes.
Okay. That's a good one. There's a lot of names. A lot of names that I felt good about. I'm trying to think of some other ones I want to name here. Adeuce Thiero is another guy. Corey just got me watching him early, and months ago, and every time I watch him, I'm just like, I'm convinced this is going to be a fun piece in the second round for some team. A lot of the international guys. I'm trying to bring up new guys, but I don't know. That's all I got. Metcalf. Anybody else?
No.
Corey. Albert had a fantastic piece on Kwame Evans Jr. this year,
yes,
or today. Everyone go check that out. So if you're listening this tomorrow, it was yesterday, but it's at noceilingsnba.com. And Metcalf's going to have a hot topic tomorrow. It's going to be Nikola Topic. I'm really pumped for that piece. And you had your video on him, which go check out the YouTube. Pretty pumped about that. Have mine coming up. Anything else? What do you got?
Green
Timberwolves
room.
looking good. Oh, green room. Wow. Okay. Hit me with the now that I'm back home, I can actually make the graphic and video. So hit me with who we've got.
All right. So currently in there, we got Jacoby Walter, Alexander Sarr, Ron Holland, Stephon Castle. In line, in crutches and a boot, Donovan Clingan, Garwey Dual, Bronny James, and Justin Edwards.
Our inline curveball is such a good curveball for the year. What are your thoughts? Hit me with it.
I'm thinking we got to go Justin Edwards.
I think so too. Clingan
won on both our boards.
Yeah.
By all accounts, he was running the show at Kentucky's Pro Day.
It sounds like.
I think he rocks. My vote.
Yeah, Justin should be in there.
Okay.
Clingan with the boot, still paying off his medical bill by working as a bouncer on the side until he's cleared. Sounds like he's going to be cleared to open the year, but I'm still going to say let's be careful about that one. I have a feeling that might be like, how about one more? How about you missed the first game? Or he might play 10 minutes and then they're like, you're good. Do we want to just leave the line like it is, or do we want to? Do we have to? Are we nominating one every week? Okay.
And if you don't have one to nominate, we're not going to force it and nominate guys who have no business being in line, even. But
no, but it's a good thing to have in line.
It gives us more of a pool to pick from.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to have it crazy where I'm like making a graphic and having artistic stuff. We'll get to that point down the road. If anyone wants to do that and they're really good at that, let me know.
Also, shout out to the comments talking about Alex Chewy. He has been awesome.
I love
in the NBL to start this year. Very, very high on him.
Salute.
Very, very, very close to my first round.
Yes. Wow. Where do you have him?
Mid-30s.
Really proud of that. I was thinking of going to a therapist to say I love Alex Tui, and I don't understand why anyone does. And he could play. That dude can play basketball, and I need everyone to stop thinking he's a next year guy. I think he's Gonzaga would have been fun with him.
Yep.
I pour one out for Gonzaga.
That decommittal is looking, or decommitment is looking worse by the day for them. Okay, who are you nominating?
Stuff. You have anyone on the top of your head?
I got two names.
Okay, you go. Hit me with one. Why do I feel like we need a foreigner? We need I know Alex Sarr is there, but he played with OTE last couple of years. That doesn't count.
Who did I just wax poetic about this episode?
I know, that's where I'm saying. Okay. Zaccharie?
He's my nomination.
You know what? That's a good one because Zachary's in line, but he's one of the wait, he's in line? Shouldn't he be in? But if Zaccharie keeps playing good, then we might have to revisit this, and he might just be in right away. I like that. Plus, we need foreign relations. I mean, Sarr is from France, but correct? Is he?
Yeah. He's French.
Yes. Sarr is from France. We get another Frenchman in there. They can They can talk to each other. Good relationship. Sar won't be out of place. Zaccharie, for someone who's been out of place or a little timid, now Zaccharie has someone that he can talk to, different languages. I like it. Were we putting him in line?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. That's a good one. I think he's like probably another good performance away from getting out of line. We'll have to see.
I'm excited for you to catch up on this game.
Yeah, I am actually pretty pumped. I got some stuff going on tonight, but that's the late night film tonight. It's probably some Zaccharie film. I think that's good. Good line.
All right. Do you have a nomination or no?
Well, I was going to nominate someone from overseas, but now I kind of want to pivot and maybe do.
Well, we can have them battle it out in line. Or admit multiple international guys. There are no rules here.
There are no rules. I'll go Nikola Topic because he's a hot topic. The line's buzzing. The line is buzzing. Like we have to. It's a very. I mean, maybe we just make a graphic as just a whiteboard with names. Like let's just get simple with it, and then we could be like in line. And people can argue it out on the line, about the line. Topic has to be in there, right? Has to not be in there. He has to be waiting. He's been too on fire.
I don't understand how it happens. It's every goddamn game. He's put up like 20 and 8, and it doesn't make sense.
The last game, I think, shout out Ignacio. I think Ignacio posted it. And like it was the first clip. He posted his highlights. And like the first clip, he puts a sequence on that I was like, oh my goodness. Like it was like an off the dribble, got stopped, went back, put like a counter on a guy to get back towards him and finish. And I was like, if you're putting that in this is unreal. So it's also like every time he does that, you have to remember how big he is.
Yeah.
Where do you have him? Where do you have him?
His understanding of angles is absurd.
Where do you have him?
22.
Okay. I have him in the 20s, and I feel like I'm being harsh on him.
Do you buy the shot?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think we get caught up. No, yeah, the shot I need to watch more. The thing with international guys that I've found is I feel like we get too fascinated with the form of that. And I'm a big with like, okay, it might look funky getting to a point, but it's like, if it's consistent, the rotation, everything looks good with the balance and stuff, is it fine? It's like in baseball where it's like everyone can have a different setup to get to your swing. Like when you had like, I'm just going down a little history path. Like Barry Bonds, Gary Sheffield, Vladimir Guerrero, you can all have this different weird formats, Craig Counsell, but when you need to get to business, what does your swing look like? And I feel like with basketball, with shooters sometimes, I need to watch him closely because, yeah, it's a little bit like herky-jerky and stuff, but it's like when you get to the point where it needs to be solid, are you consistent? Is everything the right way? And that's how I felt about, Tyrese Halliburton. I was like, I don't care if he has a catapult. Look at the numbers and stuff. And Topic isn't in that conversation. I'm just saying
he's not
I need to watch him
multiple years in a row.
I need to watch him closely.
Okay, so I'll just give you a little teaser on some of the numbers I ran through from my piece. So
are you buying it? I know everyone's going to read it, but are you buying it? It's very early, but are you buying it, or is it?
I went out on the really courageous limb and said I don't know, but I'm leaning towards.
Is this the inside the 3-point line demon that you're hoping he hits 2 threes a game? Or you're hoping he goes 2 for 4 in a game from downtown to make a defense react, and you're just like, okay, fine. Now he's a nightmare because he hit a couple.
Kind of, I guess. I mean,
Josh Giddey.
So hold on. So he's taken 30 jumpers over 6 games. 26 of those have been from 3. So there's absolutely no mid-range game. And I think part of that is his playmaking and how good he is at getting to and finishing at the rim. So I think there's some of that, but a lot of it is that he doesn't separate at all. And he has a really slow and kind of low release. But the form is consistent. He's also shooting like 84% or something from the line. So, some encouraging indicators and taking 4-ish 3-pointers a game, decent volume. So extrapolate that out throughout an entire season. That will give us a better sample size, but he's shooting just 33.3% overall on jumpers and 34.6% from three. For Mega, not bad, 85% from the line. But if we go back to the summer with Serbia, I think that was the tournament where the floors were all messed up and wet and whatnot. So maybe take these with a bit of a grain of salt, but numbers were a lot worse. Over those 7 games, he took 30 jumpers, where he shot 13.3%. 21 of those were from 3, where he shot just 9.5%. So I don't know. It's a big question and something I probably won't have any better idea on for another month or two.
Well, you're going to get teasers of it. And that's why I get patient with the overreaction, is because he's been unbelievable. He's been fantastic. It's like the dream start for an international prospect. But sometimes when you're like, people will point and be like, well, the lack of jumpers. And then I'll be in my head, I'll be like, but is that because he's just like, I can be patient and get to the hoop when I want? But eventually that's going to catch up, because some smart defender is going to be like, I'm making you shoot the ball off
right,
the
but then
dribble.
he does this shit.
Yeah, and then he does that. So then you're like, okay, what's up? But like, to me, from there, that looks fine. It's just, are we going to get that off the dribble, live dribble shooting, pull up jumpers, catch and shoot, moving? And you don't think we are, which is a problem.
It is.
But is this like I said, Josh Giddey, because I'm like, is this the Josh Giddey thing where it's like you're getting Topic to be an unbelievable playmaker and great feel guy, and then you're hoping that when he's wide open like that, he says, I'm going to hit this and you have to come play me up so then I can attack and create. But Giddey, I love Giddey, and I'm not trying to compare them to. It's just, that's the tough thing with international guys. Like, yeah, he's putting up huge numbers, but what happens if you take away his best ability, scoring? Like, what? My big thing with prospects is why I don't just be like, oh, I'm putting him top 5 because he's playing great. Because I'm like, if you take away his best ability, scoring, like if you put one of the best defenders right now on him and he couldn't get to the basket, what is he doing? I don't know. Like, but we're going to have a lot of tape to watch this year. Like, let's just wait and see how teams adjust, how he does when they're playing him the second time around and stuff like that. Like, it's a lot of time to go, but fun talent, fun film. Very fun film. And I'm really pumped. I've loved watching your YouTube video breakdown on him. I'm going to love reading your piece on him. So everyone check that out. We got a lot of comments during this about the preseason draft guide. Yes, it'll be out soon. Graphics are done. The write-ups are about to be done. Just editing, making sure it's perfect for you guys, but I'm very happy with how it's going to turn out. It's going to be a little bit more in depth this year, I think, the preseason one. So we're pumped about that.
Absolutely. This was a blast. You can find all of that at NoCeilingsNBA.com or follow us on Twitter at NoCeilingsNBA, where everything gets shared out. So he is Tyler Rucker at Tyler_Rucker. I'm Tyler Metcalf at TMetcalf11. This was a blast. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and a 5-star rating. Till next time, see ya.